A dying lord becomes a disgraced heir, and every enemy underestimates him. Spoiler warning from here. Redan Byok is not just another lazy young master trying to clean up his image. Behind that body is the mind of Hwansaengcheonma, an old martial authority who dies with regrets, unfinished questions, and a very suspicious illness hanging over his final days. Now he wakes inside a clan heir famous for wasting his life, and the punishment is brutal. Every bad choice the original Redan made is still waiting for him. Debts, enemies, family suspicion, people who smile politely while measuring how useful his death might be. But here's the thing. This new Redan carries old experience into a young body, so every conversation becomes a battlefield, and every sword lesson becomes proof that the wastrel everyone remembers may already be gone. The story opens back into calm mountain air, but the calm is misleading. Redan trains alone, and the important part is not just that his sword is getting sharper. It is that the world itself seems to be slowing down around him. Movements he once had to chase now feel readable, almost absurdly clear, and that changes the entire shape of his future fights. He is not swinging harder for pride. He is studying angles, timing, and the hidden path inside an attack before it lands. Then the pressure shifts indoors, where a composed young woman, a nervous girl, and several adults discuss family ties and a possible household arrangement. Redan agrees to investigate something tied to a missing or ruined household, and right as that mystery opens, a rainy bamboo forest shows an elderly master facing masked attackers with terrifying calm. That forest violence turns from warning into disaster. An elderly bald martial artist moves through snowy bamboo, but the assassins are already on him, and the masked fighter hunting him does not behave like a normal killer. He cuts through defenses, presses forward through sleeve and cloak techniques, and then drops the line that breaks the old man's composure. Someone important has already been killed. That is where rage replaces caution. The old man tries to answer with force, but anger does not close the skill gap fast enough, and the masked fighter keeps carving him down. Then the scene widens into something colder and more frightening, with a white-haired elder or elder-like presence tied to an overwhelming ice-like technique that floods the forest. Later, the story cuts to an estate, where developing the Yang Syndicate becomes more than ambition. It sounds like a dangerous dream with enemies already circling. The aftermath shifts into a ruined room, and it is ugly before anyone explains it. A red-robed, long-haired man stands over defeated opponents while the adults around him argue over what his violence proves. He does not look ashamed. He looks like someone who believes the damage confirms exactly what he suspected. Meanwhile, Redan speaks with loyal retainers, and the mood changes from public accusation to private burden. Keeping people safe is not a slogan for him anymore. It is becoming a test of whether his new life can survive the people attached to it. He seeks help from an older clan elder and presses toward a hidden secret dangerous enough to make the elder speak in grim, almost monstrous terms. Then the red-robed man approaches outside with a smile, calls him younger brother, and brings up a woman's injuries healing by now. Watch that shift. Redan's calm cracks because the threat has become personal. Now the trap becomes political. A stolen silver accusation tied to Wayam pulls several men into a tense investigation, and every answer seems to point toward an old grudge or a frame job. Redan stays controlled in blue robes, guiding the argument instead of letting louder men own the room. That matters, because the older red-robed man beside him becomes more emotional the longer the evidence circles back toward betrayal. The accusation is not just about missing money. It threatens reputation, loyalty, and whatever buried history these men have been trying not to say aloud. After a drinking room confrontation and a glimpse of a secret meeting, the pressure snaps into night. The red-robed man is surrounded by armed masked men, and they demand to inspect his pocket. That is the brutal catch. Once suspicion touches you in Murim politics, even innocence starts looking like guilt. The night confrontation erupts into a rain-soaked duel, and the red-robed warrior finally stops arguing with words. A masked swordsman faces him with a blade, backed by other attackers, but the red-robed man does not flinch. He reads the stance, steps in, and turns the first exchange into a warning. The fight gets messy fast. Ambushers close around him, steel flashes through heavy rain, and even when he takes injuries, he keeps pressing forward like pain is only another sound in the storm. But here is where it hits harder than a simple power flex. The violence shakes him. Memories and old costs sit underneath every strike, so his victory does not feel clean. Then the story pivots to a strategic meeting where a long-haired man refuses to become someone else's scapegoat and introduces his own strongest warrior instead. The board is changing, and Redan's enemies are not ready for who moves next. Redan's real strength keeps showing up in conversations before it shows up in fights. First, he faces a stern long-haired woman inside a formal hall, and the air between them is all suspicion. She studies him like she expects a spoiled heir, but he answers with the calm of someone who has seen deeper wars than this room can hold. A bloody image of dark figures hangs over their exchange, suggesting her past or her problem is tied to something dangerous. Then the two speak privately by moonlit water, and Redan appears to know more about her circumstances than he should. That is what unsettles people around him now. He does not just react. He arrives with context. Later, over tea with a red-robed official or noble, he refuses soft handling and pushes toward an ominous faction shown in shadow. By the end, contact with that dangerous group is no longer forbidden imagination. It is an option. The next move brings Redan and his companions to a guarded estate, where the welcome is formal enough to feel staged. Disciples and guards line the courtyard, but the real focus is the purple-robed, mustached man under guard. The moment the name Hwarang comes up, his body gives him away. He sweats, panics, and reacts like that name has teeth. Redan notices, because of course he does, and starts pressing around identity, servants, hidden motives, and whether someone is hiding behind a false role. The estate scenes turn into a quiet interrogation where the dangerous thing is not a sword stroke, but a single inconsistency. Later, after a night conversation near water and bamboo, Redan prepares to leave with supplies, and captured men are brought in for confirmation. The headband aide understands the risk. If the fake identity is exposed too early, the larger plan could collapse. Redan travels by carriage through the mountains with a black-haired young woman companion, and the journey turns into a lesson about power. The conversation circles around strength, theft, responsibility, and what it means to take or borrow another person's martial path. Then the imagery slips inward: meditation, dark energy, a fallen manual in a star-like void, and a white-haired, elder-like figure speaking as if the answer is buried inside discipline rather than brute force. It feels like Redan is not only moving across the map, he is rebuilding the rules he lives by. When the group reaches a roadside estate or lodging area, polite greetings become suspicion. A richly dressed official arrives with guards and begins testing whether someone is impersonating an important young master. But Redan stays calm, points out the contradictions in the accusation, and forces the official to step back into caution instead of dominance. This is the point where the verified trail breaks, and that matters because pretending would weaken the recap. The supplied evidence for this stretch is not enough to safely identify what happens next. There are no accessible panel images to inspect, and the text fallback gives no readable dialogue, no confirmed character movement, no clear location, and no trustworthy action beat. So the only safe story truth is that the narrative has just come out of the roadside identity confrontation with Redan, proving that calm logic can defuse political pressure, while the next confirmed development is unavailable from the provided material. Instead of inventing a fight, alliance, betrayal, or reveal, the honest takeaway is this: the story has opened multiple live threats: fake identities, faction contact, stolen money, and hidden loyalties, but the exact next move cannot be grounded here. The following stretch has the same evidence problem, so the recap has to keep its footing. No usable panels are available for direct inspection, and the transcript does not provide readable lines that can confirm who appears, where the scene takes place, or what conflict lands. That means there is no safe way to say whether Redan fights, negotiates, travels, discovers a secret, or faces another imposter challenge. What we can carry forward is the pressure already established. Redan is moving through a Murim world where reputation is a weapon, names can be disguises, and every formal greeting may hide an ambush. The latest solid evidence leaves him proving himself through restraint and sharp reasoning rather than brute force. Until reliable panels are available, the next confirmed cliffhanger is not a specific event. It is the uncertainty itself, hanging over every threat already in motion. What makes this stretch work is that Redan's growth is not only about becoming stronger with a sword. Yes, his perception improves, and yes, the martial world keeps throwing assassins, masked fighters, and political traps into his path. But the bigger transformation is social. The old lord inside him knows how people move when they are afraid, lying, grieving, or trying to use him. That is why these episodes keep turning conversations into duels. A stolen silver case, a fake name, a formal welcome, a polite official asking for proof. Each one is a blade pointed at his new identity. The frustrating part is that the final two planned beats cannot be verified from the available evidence, but the direction is clear enough. Redan is no longer just repairing a ruined reputation. He is walking into a web of factions that were already dangerous before he woke up inside this body. Subscribe for the next recap, because Redan's fake wastrel act is getting harder to hide.